back on the record. Counsel, the defendant are present, the witness is on the stand. We are going to be able to continue with the current witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Tabalenza.
Good afternoon.
And I'm going to also, sir, we do need you to answer pretty much everything in Tagalog if you know the words for it. This is easier for my court reporter, and that way it is the interpreter who will be interpreting everything that you say in Tagalog into English.
Kinakailangan
Yes,
ko na
sir.
sagutin niyo po lahat sa Tagalog na kasi magiging mas madali po. Kahit na po alam niyo sa English, para maging madali po sa court reporter tsaka para po yun, isasali na lang po ng interpreter.
Opo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. At the time when Mr. Millete showed you the firearm that you testified earlier that he tapped it, or did he actually show you the gun?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Ay, sorry.
Kanina po sinabi ninyo sa testimonya ninyo na pinakita sa inyo ni Ginoong Milanes yung kanyang baril po sa data niya. Talaga ba nang yung sinabi niyong tinatapik niya? Talaga po bang pinakita niya sa inyo?
Opo. Maluwag na kinita ko, hindi ako bulag.
Yes, it was very clearly that I saw it. I'm not blind.
and where exactly were you located in the house during that event?
Counsel, beg,
Oh, okay.
may be misstating his testimony if you're talking about when he's showing you.
All right. Now, when Mr. Millete showed you the gun, where exactly were you located?
Nung pinakita po sa inyo na Ginoong Milanes yung baril, nasaan po kayo eksakto yung lokasyon ninyo?
Nasa harap ako ng garage.
I was in front of the garage.
Yung tinitignan ko yung mga apo ko naglalaro sa kalsada.
I was keeping an eye on my grandchildren playing on the street.
So, can you describe the firearm? What color was it? How big was it?
Pwede niyo po bang isalarawan yung baril, kung anong kulay ito, kung gaano kalaki ito?
Palagay ko, tawag nila yung, kasi hindi ko alam kung inang klase ng baril yata. 9mm yata, ganyan kaliit.
I think this much, because I know also some kinds of gun. I think they call it 9mm. This small,
Kulay itim.
color black.
While describing the firearm, the witness just held up his two index fingers on his right and left hand, approximately 6 inches apart. Next question.
Thank you, Yana. How long did he show you the gun?
Gaano niya katagal ipinakita sa inyo yung baril?
Hindi abot. Wala yata 5 minuto.
It was not even 5 minutes.
And you didn't ask him any questions while he was holding the gun for 5 minutes?
Wala kayong tinanong sa kanya kahit na anong tanong habang hinahawakan niya yung baril ng sa loob ng 5 minuto?
Wala. Natawa lang ako. Umalis na ako.
No, I just laughed it off. I left.
Did you ever suspect when Mr. Millete was talking to you, did you have any suspicion that he might use that gun to hurt someone that you know?
Pumasok pa sa isip ninyo na maaaring gamitin ni Ginoong Milanes yung bagay na yon na para saktan ang isang tao na kilala ninyo.
Wala. Kasi alam ko wala naman siyang kaaway doon sa kanila. Yung mga bayaw niya, yung mga mga kamag-anak niya, yung mga maliliit lang. Paano siya saratan yung mga bata?
No, because he doesn't, nobody knows, nobody would hurt him there. All his in-laws and the children, and they were just the children. How could they hurt him?
You've never seen Mr. Millete hurt your daughter Maya. Is that correct?
Tama po bang sabihin na hindi pa ninyo nakita si Ginoong Millete na sakta ng anak ninyong si Maya?
Hindi pa.
Not yet.
Did you at any time sleep at Mr. Milete's house in December 2020 without babysitting, just sleeping there?
Kayo po ba pumunta na kayo sa bahay ni Ginoong Millete na hindi kayo nag-aalaga ng bata? Parang natutulog lang kayo doon sa bahay nila noong taong 2020?
Hindi kami pumupunta dyan kung hindi kami alaga ng bata o kaya may sabihin sa akin ni Maya, tawagan ako. Pag tinawagan ako, wala naman kaming gagawin. Tapos kinawagan, uwi rin kami.
No, we don't go there if we will not look after, take care of the children, or if Maya would call us, and then if he calls us, he would, the following day, he would leave right away.
At any time after your daughter went missing, do you recall talking to Mr. Millete again?
Sa kahit na anong pong pagkakataon, pagkatapos mawala ng anak ninyo, natatandaan niyo ba na nag-usap pa kayo ni Ginoong Millete?
Hindi na kami nag-usap kailanman.
No, we never spoke with each other again.
You don't remember that days later, after you went to Mr. Milete's house on January the 9th, that you had spoken to Mr. Millete and asked him if he was responsible for your daughter's absence in the house?
Counsel, this is interpreted. Could you please repeat those days?
You don't remember that days later, after the disappearance of your daughter, Mrs. Millete, isn't it true that you met and spoke to Mr. Larry Millete?
Hindi po ba totoo na pagkatapos mga ilang araw makalipas, nagkausap pa kayo matapos malaman na nawawala yung anak ninyo, Ginoong Millete, na nagkausap pa uli kayo?
Hindi na kami nagkausap.
No, we did not
Wala yung anak.
since my child went missing.
And you don't remember that during that later date that you asked him if he was responsible for Maya's disappearance?
Hindi niyo ba natatandaan na ng mga makalaang na mga pagkakataon, hindi niyo ba natatandaan na tinanong na siya kung responsable siya sa pagkawala ni Maya?
Tinanong ko lang siya na kung nasaan na yung si Maya.
I just asked him where Maya is.
And you don't remember meeting him later, correct?
Hindi niyo natatandaan na nakita pa siya kayong dalawa, tama?
Opo, hindi na kami nagkita nung umalis na kami sa kanilang bahay. Hanggang doon na lang.
No, since we left their house, we did not see each other anymore.
Let me ask you about the time that you spoke to Miss Bowles and Mr. Rhodes in January 10, 2022, that you testified you remembered speaking to them.
Natatandaan niyo po ba kanina sinabi niyo na natatandaan niyo na nakausap niyo si Ginang Boss noong Enero, at least po noong taong 2022 na nakausap niyo sila?
Sino?
Whom are you referring to?
Counsel Miss Bowles and Mr. Rhodes.
Yung abogado po, si Ginang Boss, at saka yung si Ginong Rhodes po.
The two individuals at the table in front of us, the prosecutor and her investigator.
Yung dalawang tao po nasa harapan, yung prosecutor po at saka investigador.
Oo, nakausap ko minsan.
Yes, I spoke with them once.
And at that time, you told them that you thought that Larry is a good person, correct?
Sa pagkakataon na yun, sinabi ninyo na sa palagay ninyo na si Larry ay mabuting tao, tama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you never told them that you suspected Larry killed your daughter.
Objection, relevance, beyond scope, hearsay.
And that's all, Your Honor. I just,
Stay on all of
okay. Your witness.
Read her.
Thank you. Your Honor, actually, I'm not of questions for this witness.
Okay, may the witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, thank you very much. That concludes your testimony.
Maraming salamat po, tapos na po yung testimonya ninyo.
Opo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Nice day. And you can remain if you'd like.
Pwede po kayong manatili kung gusto ninyo, pero tapos na po.
Next, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people called Blaine Hinckley.
Mr. Hinckley, somebody gonna watch your jacket for you out there?
What's that?
Somebody gonna watch your jacket for you? Okay, we don't wanna leave it out there, that's all. We don't want anything to happen to it. I appreciate it. Yeah, okay, come on. Okay, will you cover, stand right here for me? Raise your right hand, face that young lady up there with the black jacket.
Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury the testimony provided in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, walk around there, take a seat right up there on the windows there.
Sir, would you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Blaine Hinckley, Hinckley.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Mr. Hinckley, what do you do for a living?
I'm a plumber.
I want to direct your attention to a photograph. Courts Exhibit 3-1. Do you recognize who's in that photograph?
I do.
Who is that person?
Maya.
And when did you meet Maya?
So I met Maya doing some off-roading in our Jeeps in the end of 2020 on 2 trips specifically, 12/12 and then the day after Christmas, and we went down to the desert.
I'm going to ask you some questions about that, but let's back up first. Are you part of some type of group on Facebook? Or how is it that you actually met?
Sure. So initially it was through the San Diego Jeep Club, but that's not how I met her. Through meeting friends in the Jeep Club, we sort of went off and kind of made our own group. And in that small group, she was invited through proxy of somebody else.
So, just so we understand, what is the San Diego Jeep Club?
San Diego Jeep Club is an off-road group specific to Jeep owners. Basically, they meet monthly, go out and do off-roading runs for people that own Jeeps, mostly Wranglers, to get together and just go out and have fun with their Jeeps, meet other like-minded people, crawl on top of rocks and take pictures of it.
And can anyone join the Jeep Club?
As long as you have a Jeep. Yeah, just for this one specific group. There's many other off-road groups in San Diego, and it's not specific to just Jeeps.
So, are you on a Facebook Messenger communication or on Facebook with this Jeep, the San Diego Jeep Club?
I'm no longer in the club. When I had gone to a couple events and I had met some people, and then we sort of created our own little group. You kind of click in with people that you like, and so I had some Facebook messages rather, excuse me, with people that we had created our own little group with.
And who are those people?
You want to know names?
Just a few of the names that.
There would be Kevin, my friend Angela, trying to think who else was in that original chat. Lori.
Is it fair to say that within the group then you kind of find the people that maybe you enjoy spending time with, and then you kind of start planning kind of offshoot trips with those people?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to hang out with everybody, and not everybody wants to hang out with everybody else. So yeah, we certainly find the people that we have the most in common with.
Did you meet Maya first, or did you communicate on Facebook with her first?
I met her first.
And where was it that you met her?
So that would be the first run on December 12th, 2020. And we did a run down to the desert to a specific area called Painted Gorge down in Ocotillo.
Okay. And how far away is that?
I'm geographically inept, so just down in the desert. I live in Santee.
East?
It is
West?
east,
North?
yeah. It's far east down on the desert floor, down in those that may be not familiar with it, the Anza, Borrego, and Ocotillo Wells desert area.
So the first trip was December 12th, 2020.
Correct.
Where did you first meet May on that trip?
So we typically meet at an area just above whatever trail we're about to embark on, for everybody to kind of muster up, talk about the trail, let air out of their tires. So I believe there was a spot just before the main trail that we got off on.
So typically,
So I'm a bit confused.
Sure.
How is it that you came to meet her, that you both ended up on that trip on December 12th?
Sure. So there was a run that was put together, initially orchestrated by one of our sort of leaders in our little clique, and then there was just an influx of people that they had invited.
So the leader of the run invited both of you.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, there was probably at least 10 or 12 other Jeeps, I believe, on that run.
and you referred to a Jeep run. Can you tell us what that is referring to?
Sure. So it's a meetup. Much like you would meet up with friends to go on a hike or something, or go out in the town. But we meet up with our Jeeps to a specific location, and then we do a trail. Usually 2 to 4 to 6 hours, depending on how many rocks you want to take pictures on top of. And we just run through the desert, and that's it. So that would be a Jeep run.
So this particular Jeep run, organized by someone that was a mutual friend or a mutual acquaintance within the Jeep community of both you and Maya.
Correct.
And this meeting place, is that something that you typically do as well? Find some sort of meeting place so that all the Jeeps can converge prior to going out on the...
Yeah. So we like to caravan together. So sometimes within the clique, you may find people that live in the same proximity as you. Myself in East County, so we'll say, hey, so and so lives out here too. Do you guys want to meet up at a specific location, McDonald's, whatever, and then head down to the desert, and then we all, as one large group, will converge and meet at one specific location, usually designated by whoever's putting on the run.
So, for example, the Chevron off of the freeway might be a meeting spot.
Yep, down in Hakamba.
Can you Hakamba is, that's,
Gosh, Jacumba.
thank you. So, for example, if someone was part of this organized trip who lived in Santee and another person lived in Chula Vista, you might meet them at the Chevron. From there, go out to wherever the trails are.
Yeah. Usually we try to muster up at a sort of last call gas station before we hit the trail. Fill up our gas tanks, get snacks, get drinks, use the bathroom.
And you said something about letting air out of the tires. Tell us about that.
Sure. So when you're going off-road, basically there's two things that happens when letting air out of your tires. You gain better traction because you have a wider contact patch. So if we're doing any sort of crawling or going over obstacles, you have a better chance of doing it. And it also, being that we're on the dirt roads, rocky roads, non-maintained roads, letting air out also gives a softer ride.
And then I presume after you are finished with the Jeep run, you then
Put the air, you put air back in your tires, yeah. So that's another convergence point where people kind of talk about the trail and talk about wins and always talking about how much more money they want to spend on their Jeep, and then people might share their compressors to put the air back in their tires. So yeah.
is there a lot of gear or sort of extra toys that can be purchased when you're a Jeep enthusiast?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, there's a lot. It really just depends how much money you want to spend. It never ends.
So you were part of this first Jeep run December 12th, and how many Jeeps did you say were part of that?
I want to say approximately 12.
And I'll refer to as, and did she introduce herself to you as Maya?
Yes.
Was Maya there with her 2 children?
She was on that run just with her 2 daughters.
So tell us a little bit about what that run, or what you guys did on that Jeep run.
Sure. So I was particularly excited because I had just invested some money into my Jeep and wanted to see how it performed. I met Maya there, and she was specifically excited because they had just bought that Jeep for her. It was a nice one, top of the line.
What kind of Jeep did she have?
She had a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. So that's kind of top of the line that you can get off of the show floor, as it were. She was just a little ball of energy, and it was rather infectious. Her daughters were just a ball of energy with her. They were just having girl time. It was great to see. I have 2 young kids, so it holds a special place in my heart to go out there, take my kids out there, and have fun. And her and her girls were having just as much fun.
Is it also common to take photos on these Jeep runs?
Yes. In fact, I would say you didn't go on a Jeep run if you didn't take at least 20 pictures.
And were there photographs taken of this particular Jeep run?
Yeah, absolutely. I captured some photos of her and her daughters. There was one specific obstacle, as it were, that we went down that she closed her eyes, because she was apprehensive and probably overly excited about what it meant to do that, a little scared probably. So I remember taking that photo.
So obstacles, I mean, how does it go? You kind of say, we're gonna go up this trail and kind of take on this obstacle, who's gonna go first, or how does that work?
Yeah, so usually each trail kind of has a rating, whether it's locally or nationally known or not. Usually by the person that's leading the run will know the difficulty of the trail, and they'll say, hey, this is going to be pretty crazy. You can get into some stuff where your Jeep's gonna get off camber.
I'm sorry?
Off camber would be, really tilted, 15, 20, 25, 30 degrees. You kind of get uneasy in those positions. So that would be, going over an obstacle can create something off camber. But yeah, we would be going down a trail, and the leader of the group, again, at our original muster point, would say, hey, this is kind of what to expect for you guys. Of course, that's all depending on how involved the person leading the run is.
And just for the record, when you said off camber and you described that, you kind of put your 2 hands at an angle.
So this is the Jeep, and then we would be going like that,
So-
like climbing walls intentionally.
Just for the record, the witness put his 2 hands up, palms facing down, and kind of his 2 thumbs just about half an inch apart, and kind of angled them towards the side to indicate the Jeep riding at a slight angle.
Yes, when it's off camber, you said?
Off camber, yes.
Okay, yes.
So-
We'll ask that you don't use your hands. Whenever anyone uses
Okay.
their hands, we have to then describe it for the record. It slows
Understood.
things down.
Did, as part of these Jeep runs then, is it either the leader or as a group, do you kind of take the temperature of the other individuals involved, in other words, how experienced they are?
We do, and we'll usually try to run it in some organized fashion where we try to have people that are more experienced running in various positions of the run. So if, let's say you have, 12 to 15 Jeeps, you'll have the leader in the front. You'll have somebody that leader knows and trusts because they've ridden with them, and say, hey, can you catch the middle for me? And then another person will catch the tail end. So there's always, the beginners will be sandwiched in between other people that are experienced.
And what was Maya, if you know, was she?
She was a beginner.
Beginner. Do you know whether or not this was her first Jeep run?
I can't say specifically. I don't know.
Did she seem interested in learning more about Jeeps?
Yeah, totally.
Why
She
do you
caught
say
the
that?
bug. 'Cause I mean, like all conversations, when we get to the air up point, everybody's excited talking about, oh, what about this? What is that you have there? Usually that level of engagement indicates they wanna keep doing it. They wanna buy more. Yeah.
And was that the attitude that Maya expressed as well?
Totally.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness
Why?
to show him some exhibits?
Yes.
Direct you to Court's Exhibit 12. And I will not be projecting the majority of these photos. Looking at 12-1, do you recognize what is in that exhibit?
Yes.
What is that photograph of?
That would be Maya's Jeep Wrangler.
And do you recall, if you know, who took this photo? If you know.
I think that might have been me.
Does this look to be a fair and accurate photograph of the Jeep run that you were on December 12th?
Yes.
And then looking at 12-2, do you recognize what's in the photograph on that court exhibit?
I do.
And who's in that photograph?
That is Maya and one of her daughters.
Did you have an opportunity to observe Maya with her daughters that day?
I did.
And can you describe their interactions?
Connected, bubbly, energetic, bonded.
Looking at 12-3, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
What do you recognize that photograph to be?
The same one from 12-1, except it's a part of a messenger string.
And were you part of that messenger string on Facebook?
Yes.
Do you see a comment or something that you had written in connection with that photograph?
I did. Somebody else had mentioned Kevin, who was the leader of this one, jokingly, Maya, I think there's room for improvement on your technique. That was, sort of sarcastic. I had also chimed in saying, "Oh, but Maya, you captured the best essence of life, unfiltered fun and love. Your daughters are having pure fun with you."
And why did you write that?
I think a lot of reasons. One, I was still sort of new at that point too, so I had and still have the adventure bug, as it were, and I love taking my children out. I have 2 young kids, and she had that, and I could see the essence of her enjoyment with her children out there that day, and it rang close to my heart because I recognize it as the same enjoyment I have with my kids.
And I'm gonna actually, Your Honor, if I may, approach the witness with, the photograph that I have on the iPad, because I think the color copy is a bit faded, and I'd like to ask the witness some questions about, the exhibit, with kind of a clearer picture.
Yes.
Unless you can see it, okay, but it's a little bit faded, so I'm gonna show you and zoom in a little bit on 12-3. And just again, because it's faded somewhat, can you describe what is in that photograph?
Yeah, so this is the one where she's closing her eyes, which is hilarious. But she simultaneously has her eyes closed and a giant smile, and her daughter is sitting shotgun with just as big of a smile, but I believe her eyes are open. So.
Okay. And when you say shotgun, you mean in the passenger seat?
Correct, front passenger.
Okay. And these photos, 12-1 through 12-3, and the messages, do those appear to be accurate messages and photographs within the thread of communication that you were describing among this group of people?
Yes, absolutely.
Involved in the Jeep run?
Yeah, typically when we get done with the run, people just dump all their photos within the same private messenger that we've set up for that run, and then just talk about all the excitement they had and all the new things they need to buy.
You mentioned a second trip then on December 26th.
Correct.
You were on that trip as well?
Yes.
And Maya was on that trip as well?
Yes.
Who else was with Maya on that second Jeep trip?
This was her whole family, so it was also her son and Larry.
And the 2 girls were there as well, her 2 daughters?
Correct.
Now, did you notice either on this trip on the 26th or on the 12th, Maya to have her cell phone with her?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I noticed that on the 12th, she immediately, when we had the second muster point to do, airing down, before hitting the trail, she was on her phone, and it looked like maybe she was doing some personal video blogging, at the very least, at least capturing the moment for what it was, and kind of narrating her experience.
On the 26th of December, where was that Jeep trip?
That one was down Canyon San Nombre. So this, I believe, is an Ocotillo Wells as well. If not, then Anza Borrego. Either way, down in the desert. And we went, specifically the destination was the Mud Caves.
Was the trip on December 12th, was that also what would be considered Anza Borrego?
No, the first part of it is an Ocotillo. I think it ends up in parts of Anza. It's weird, the border sort of fishes in and out, or the trail fishes in and out of the borders between Ocotillo and Anza Borrego. But
That trip on December 12th, Maya was there solely with her girls in the Jeep.
correct.
And on the 26th, you said that one was Anza Borrego?
They said Canyon San Nombre.
Well, Canyon San Nombre is the name of the trail off the S-22, which I think is an Ocotillo. But there's parts of it that end up in Anza.
How many Jeeps were on that second Jeep trip on December 26th?
I believe there was only 3 of us.
Who was on that trip?
It was myself, Kevin, and Maya. I'm sorry, 4. Angela was there as well.
Kevin, Angela, Maya, and you?
Yes.
Did other people bring their children?
Yes, Angela brought her son.
And you brought your kids?
Yes.
What was the sort of plan for that trip, that Jeep run?
So I had actually prompted this run myself. I had gone down with Kevin.
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. I thought you said that on December 26th, it was Maya, all of her kids, and Larry.
Correct.
Alright. And then you said she just brought her. Oh, you're saying Angela, her son. Okay,
Yes.
not Maya. Getting confused. Alright, sorry.
No worries. So I had prompted that trip. I had been doing some trips with some others and kind of wanted to do my own trip. So we went down to the mud caves, and I had reached out to Maya to see if she wanted to join along this one, because she just seemed like she had so much fun on this one. So we went down there, went down to the mud caves and explored the mud caves, which is a favorite of me and my children. And her kids came in as well. I think her son got detached from the group, so Angela stayed with the son and then brought him back out, and Larry was out there with Kevin. They didn't go in.
When you say detached from the group that went into the mud caves? That was-
Yeah. Maya and her kids and my kids had all gone in there, and we're all sort of together. But her son, for some reason, I don't know, he was playing around, and the group just kind of separated.
And Angela, you said Angela was kind of playing with him?
Yeah, stayed with him and just provided provision over him.
Did you do the same thing you described before, meet at a gas station or something prior to going out on the Jeep run?
We did. I had it slotted for the Chevron down in Hukumba.
Did you see whether or not May and Larry had, or Maya and Larry came in one car or 2 cars?
It was one, pretty positive, just one car. Because I'm sorry, we didn't even meet at the Hukumba gas station. I have to backtrack. We met at Acorn Casino. It's a little bit further up.
Okay. And do you recall seeing when they drove up?
I don't. Because Maya and Kevin might have caravanned up there. I think I went up there on my own and met at that gas station and waited for them.
So in other words, they met at a casino and then met you at the gas station?
No, at the casino, the same casino gas station at Acorn Casino.
You just don't recall whether or not you got there after Maya and her family had already arrived?
Correct.
Did you at any point see when May and her family were inside the Jeep driving around?
I did. When we did finally meet up at the casino gas station, that's when I initially saw her.
So I'm a little confused then. So you did see them drive up, or you didn't see them drive up?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. But at some point you saw them in the
Correct.
Jeep.
Yeah.
Was there something unusual about that you recall?
Yeah, but it didn't strike me as unusual then, only once we got to our next muster destination for airing down, and that was that Larry was in the Jeep, but he wasn't in the front seat.
Let's have him identify Larry for
Okay. Did you see Larry here in court?
Yes.
Okay. Could you point to him and tell us what he's wearing for the record to identify him?
Sure. Looks like he's wearing the red striped tie and the suit.
The record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
The record was so reflect.
Looking in the exhibit, Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Looking at 12-4, do you recognize the individuals in that photograph?
Yes.
And who do you recognize that to be?
That looks like Maya, her daughter, her son, and Larry, and then Kevin in the background.
Did you say both of her daughters?
No, I only see one here.
Okay. 12-4?
Correct. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that's. Is that her daughter?
Okay. Well, how many people do you see in the photo?
Well, from Maya's tribe, 4.
Okay, well, so let's just start then. Looking at the photograph from the far right, there's somebody who's wearing a green jacket.
Correct.
Do you recognize that to be
One of her daughters, yes.
Okay, and then next to the female in the green jacket, there's somebody wearing kind of like overalls.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's her daughter too. I had originally thought that might have been Maya.
Oh. Okay. How tall is Maya?
I don't remember. I remember her being short, maybe 5 foot nothing, somewhere around there.
What's her stature?
Small.
And so, sorry, so you thought the one in the
In the middle, yeah.
Might be
Another
Maya.
small, structured female.
Okay. Do you recognize who that is, or if not, it's fine. Just if you do, could you tell us who that is?
Yes, that's her daughter.
And then there's a little boy with an anchor, like a sweatshirt with an anchor on it. Do you
Yep.
recognize who that is?
And the red pants, yeah, that was who I came to know as her son.
Okay. And then kind of farther back towards the back of the Jeep, looks like wearing all black with hands in pockets. Who is that?
That would be Larry.
And then in the background, looks like there's like a red Jeep and somebody standing behind. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, so that's Kevin, and that's my red Jeep.
So is this photograph from 12-4 taken on the December 26th trip?
Yes.
Looking at 12-5, and I will project this one, you recognize the photo up on the screen to be the same photo in the binder?
Correct.
And is this another photo from that Jeep run on December 26th?
Yes.
Can you tell us what's happening in the photo?
Yeah. So again, she
Well, first of all, let's say who's in the photo.
that is Maya and Kevin. So Kevin has been off-roading for 20 plus years, and is just a wealth of knowledge of pretty much anything. And he always wants to teach. So in this specific photo, in this instance, Maya had what's called a winch on her bumper, and Kevin was just teaching the basics of how to operate that winch.
In your observations, did Maya seem interested in learning more about Jeeps?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Because she was fully engaged in this little training, as it were, and she was just super excited when driving the Jeep, doing what we were doing throughout the day on both different adventures.
So when there came to be a stop that allowed for some kind of learning opportunity about the Jeeps, did she appear to be interested in knowing what was happening?
Absolutely.
And in the photograph, it looks like she's also wearing, looks like overalls, similar to what her daughter was wearing.
Yeah.
And then, not going to project 12-6, but what is in Court's Exhibit 12-6 looks like another Facebook record with a photograph and some messages. Do you recognize that to be a photograph
Yeah.
from the December 26th Jeep run as well?
I do. So this is in the mud caves, and these are my 2 children. Her 2 daughters and I believe that is my friend Angela's son, Jack.
And it looks like you make, she asked a question about what was the name of the trail we did Saturday, and you indicate Sin Nombre Canyon, SINNOMBRE Canyon, into Diablo Drop-Off, DIABLO, ending in the Fish Creek Wash.
Correct.
And so that was where the Jeep run took you on that particular day?
Correct.
How was, what did you observe in terms of Maya's interactions with her children on that day, December 26th?
Oh man, again, when we were in the mud caves, she was just excited as her kids were. Just engaged, playful, curious, adventurous, laughing. She laughed as much as her kids did.
What are the mud caves? What
So-
do you do if you're exploring them?
Yeah, so the mud caves basically are tunnels inside of this silt dirt mountain. And it's a pretty popular tourist destination down there in the desert. And you just walk through the mud caves, these tunnels, and you bring flashlights. And if you turn them off, it's completely dark.
Did Larry go into the mud caves?
No.
Did you have much interaction with Larry on that day?
Not a whole lot, just a basic introduction.
How did the trip end?
As they all do, in the wash and airing up our tires.
At the end of the Jeep run then, did you see when everyone kind of went their separate ways? If you recall?
I mean, specifically where everybody went, no, but once we left the area, we all sort of had the same general path, yes.
And did it appear that May and Larry and the children all left in the Jeep together?
Yes.
Did you see them at all with a second car on
No.
that day at all?
Oh, that was a no.
No.
Never saw a Lexus SUV with them that day?
No other cars.
Did you continue to have some communication with Maya on Facebook after that Jeep run on the 26th?
I think I did, yes.
And did you, if not even having more specific conversations with her, did you observe her to be engaged in the Facebook discussions within the Jeep group or with the friends that you had just gone out with on the Jeep run?
Yeah, absolutely. We had kind of tentatively made other plans to go down and do some more exploring and camping.
When was that? When were those plans?
I think we had slotted to plan for something around the beginning of 2021, so in January-ish.
Did she express interest in going on future Jeep runs with you and the others?
I believe so, yes. I don't know if I could track the conversation, but I'm sure, yes.
Well, it looks like just in 12-6, do you see a message that says something about snow at My Laguna?
Yeah, I had messaged her saying that there was snow up there, and I was going up there with my kids to go play in the snow.
And that was subsequent to the December 26th trip?
That was after the fact, yes.
And did she express interest in going?
She did. Specifically, she wrote, "I know I'm envious of people who are going up."
Was she able to go?
She was not. She followed up with saying she has to work.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. I have no other questions.
Cross-examination.
Okay, Your Honor. Mr. Hinckley, besides a requirement of owning a Jeep, do you have any other requirements in order to be a member of the Jeep Club?
A good positive attitude.
Do you run a check on any of your members before they officially become part of your club?
No, it's not that official.
Are there any restrictions for children to be members of your club?
Well, the children's themselves aren't specifically members. They just go along with the parents.
Does your club carry specific insurance coverage for all the members so that if the children get hurt during the adventure, would they be covered under a certain policy with the Jeep Club?
So this wasn't a specific club. It is not a formal organization. Any interactions that we have off-roading, we are responsible for the outcome of. There's no insurance, or it's not an organized official group.
Does your club have any restrictions
Counsel,
before?
you're mischaracterizing the witness's testimony. He
Excuse
said
me.
it's not a club.
Oh, I'm
Is that-
sorry.
That's what you said, sir?
Correct.
Okay, so do not refer to it as a club.
Okay, so how do you characterize it? Is it just a,
A social group with Jeeps.
okay. My understanding was you spoke to Council Bowles and Mr. Rhodes, where, according to your statement, you were part of a San Diego Jeep Club, so that wouldn't be accurate, right?
I was at one point a part of the San Diego Jeep Club, correct. This specific run was not through the San Diego Jeep Club.
Oh, okay. So it would be independent of the San Diego Jeep Club.
Correct.
When the Millete family joined in that off-road run, it was an independent gathering, not related to the San Diego Jeep Club.
Correct.
Okay. During the first trip to the desert, did you meet at the Chevron gasoline station in Hakoma?
Sir, did you hear the question?
I did. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember specifically. I'd have to look back at the planning of the event.
Okay. And do you wait for all of the people that were scheduled to go on that run before you leave the gasoline station?
Counsel, this is the 12-12 trip you're talking about when they're meeting up. I don't see the relevance.
Oh, okay.
Can you get to your point here?
I just wanted to see how organized and safe the trip was, Your Honor, or can somebody get lost? Is actually where I'm trying to elicit a testimony. If they're not really an official group and they're just planning this random, and how dangerous is it to the participants?
Whether someone can get lost or not is a question that appears to me that's related to discovery issues, which
Okay.
I'm not going to allow. If you have a question regarding this witness's ability to recall the events and your testing is recall, that's fine. If it's really irrelevant.
You went to the first trip. Did you understand that Miss Millete did have the experience to go through the run?
I didn't know what her previous experience was.
Did you have an opportunity to discuss that with her, especially you have her two daughters with her?
Yeah, I'm sure we talked about her being new to off-roading in her Jeep, but I believe she wasn't new to off-roading in general.
And that's the extent of your knowledge as far as her experience in off-roading and driving the Jeep in that type of environment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you had observed during these two trips that they were so excited and elated and not a care in the world.
Correct.
What is the difference that you had observed from the first trip and the second trip?
The only difference, I guess a couple. One was that now their son and Larry was a part of the trip. And the only thing that I sort of took away from that was that Larry wasn't sitting in the front of the Jeep. That was about, and he didn't go into the mud caves with his family.
Did you observe Mr. Millete, Miss Larry? Did you observe him sitting in the back seat with his son?
Yes.
And where were the two girls seated inside the Jeep?
I believe one was in the front and then one was also in the back seat.
Okay. You had an opportunity to observe the interaction between Mr. and Mrs. Millete, meaning Maya Millete and Larry Millete.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe that?
I don't recall it that much because I wasn't really observing it or paying that much attention. I mean, they both seem engaged.
Did they appear both enjoying themselves?
Sure.
That's it. That's all I have, Jan.
Redirect.
No questions.
Excuse or subject to recall?
Excused.
Excuse?
Yes, Jan.
Thank you very much for coming in, sir.
Thank you.
Next witness.
We'll call Officer Ryan Cole. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the testimony you provide in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Ryan Culver. Last name is spelled Culver.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
Officer Culver, where do you work?
I'm currently employed by the Chula Vista Police Department.
What's your current position?
I'm currently assigned to our traffic division as a DUI enforcement officer and collision investigator
How long have you been a police officer?
for approximately 3.5 years.
And what were you doing on January 9th, 2021 to January 10th, 2021? Were you working as a patrol officer at that time?
I was.
What was your shift at that time?
At that time, I was assigned to the Chula Vista Police Department Patrol Division. I was specifically assigned to Team 6, which covers weekends from 6:30 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Were you working with a partner or were you working alone at that time?
I was assigned to a solo car, but I worked with a number of other officers. We would generally respond to calls for service together.
Can you tell us a little bit about your training to become a police officer? Just briefly.
I attended and successfully completed a 6-month post-accredited academy.
Did you, in the course of completing that academy, did you successfully complete a training course certified by the Commission of Peace Officer Standards and training that included the investigation and reporting of cases and testifying at preliminary hearings?
I did.
What day of the week was January 9th? And you can refer to the calendar behind you if that's helpful.
It is. January 9th was a Saturday.
Were you dispatched to 2413 Paseo Los Gatos that evening, late evening, early morning?
I was.
What time?
Shortly after midnight.
What was the nature of the call that caused you to report to that location?
I was assigned to assist one of our officers with a missing person investigation.
Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
One of my fellow officers, Officer Andaluz, was assigned to investigate a possible missing person who resided at the Paseo Los Gatos address that you mentioned. Officer Andaluz was on limited duty due to an injury that he had previously sustained, so he was unable to go out into the field. Because that address fell within my area of responsibility for patrol, beats and sectors, Officer Andaluz requested I respond to the house, both to look for the missing person and to potentially conduct a welfare check to see if they were okay or if anyone was in need of any assistance.
How did Officer Andaluz get brought into this case?
Officer Andaluz was dispatched to take the initial report by our Chula Vista Police Dispatch. Because he was in that light duty capacity, it was only after he was initially assigned to the case that he solicited the assistance of myself and other officers who were working out in the field so that we could go check the actual address.
And so did Officer Andaluz take that initial report just over the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you speak with Officer Andaluz in preparation for testifying today?
Yes, I did.
And was there any particular reason why he asked you to go out to the house?
Yes, he asked me to go out and check the house, partially in an abundance of caution to see if potentially the missing person had returned home, but also because his initial discussion with the sister of the missing person, Mari Chris, led him to believe that potentially the missing person may be injured or potentially that the missing person's relationship with her husband was stressed, and that made Officer Andaluz concerned that potentially there may be some sort of foul play or that the missing person may be in jeopardy.
What time did you arrive at the house?
I arrived approximately 12:45 a.m.
Did you arrive alone or with other officers?
I arrived with 2 other officers.
Did they come alone, or in other words, did they come in their own patrol cars as well, or were
We arrived in 3 separate patrol cars.
Prior to arriving at the house, did you take any steps to try to locate the missing person?
I did.
What did you do?
I contacted the San Diego County Medical Examiner's office to ask if there were any persons matching the missing person's description who had been brought in, or if they had any unidentified deceased persons brought into the medical examiner's office. Additionally, I requested the Chula Vista Police Dispatch check all of the local hospitals and emergency rooms for anybody matching the missing person's description.
And who was the missing person that you were looking for?
May Millete.
And were any of those contacts, communications fruitful in locating this missing person?
No, ma'am.
What happened when you got to the house?
When I arrived at the house, my partners and I made contact at the front door, where we spoke with May's husband, Larry, who invited us inside the house.
Describe his demeanor.
When Larry first answered the door, he was extremely welcoming and bringing us into the house. I did not speak much with Larry because my partner, Officer Walsh, handled most of the communication with him, but he was extreme.
Last names, if we can.
Oh,
I'm sorry. When I first contacted Mr. Millete, he was extremely cooperative in inviting officers into the house, but the majority of the interaction with him and during the initial investigation was handled by my partner, Officer Walsh.
do you see Mr. Millete here in court today?
I do.
Could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing he's wearing for the record?
He's seated off to my right. He's wearing a black suit with a red tie that has stripes on it.
The record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant?
The record was so reflect.
Describe then what happened when you and your fellow officers went inside the house.
My partner, Officer Walsh, and I separated Mr. Millete with Miss Drallier, I believe is the pronunciation. So Officer Walsh spoke with Mr. Millete while I spoke with Miss Drallier. We specifically separated them so that we could gather their statements independent of one another and so that neither person would influence the other statement.
Is that something you commonly do?
Very often in cases of either domestic violence, any sort of case where we're concerned that one witness may either intimidate or influence another, we attempt to separate the witnesses to gather independent statements.
Was there anything in particular that caused you to want to take separate statements in this case?
Yes.
What was that?
Both Miss Drellier's initial statements to Officer Andaluz over the phone that she was concerned that something may have happened to Miss Millete. Also, Miss Drellier's demeanor when I first approached her. She appeared scared based on both the fact that she was speaking in a very quiet tone and the fact that she continually looked around the area. Every time she would answer a question, she would look to Mr. Millete first. So I believe that she was very likely uncomfortable.
So did you, in fact, separate her so that you could have a conversation with her separate from where the defendant was located in the house?
I did.
And during that statement, did she tell you about a trip to Big Bear?
She did.
Tell us, did she tell you whether or not May had canceled the trip?
Upon reviewing for court, I reviewed my body-worn camera footage, and she specifically mentioned that May never canceled the trip, which she believed to be abnormal because of how communicative May tended to be.
And was that reflected in your report?
No.
Tell us a little bit about whether or not there was a discrepancy in your report in that regard.
Yes. When I initially wrote my report, I included information that May had canceled the upcoming trip to Big Bear Mountain. However, upon reviewing my body-worn camera, I realized that I misunderstood the statement that was originally given to me by Ms. Drallier. Originally, Ms. Drallier mentioned that they had planned a trip to Big Bear Mountain, And during the time that May disappeared, Mr. Allier was concerned because May never canceled the trip, which I initially misunderstood as having been a statement that May did in fact cancel that trip.
You had your body worn camera, activated during this contact at the home at 2413 Paseo Los Gatos this early morning of January the 10th,
I did.
and that recording captured this interview, this communication that you had with Ms. Drudier.
It did.
When you, kind of backing up, when you walked into the house, tell us a little bit about what the house looked like, what you observed.
Yes, the interior of the house was disheveled. There was packaging, children's toys, and miscellaneous other items piled all over the countertops. There was different property all over the floor in the common areas. Additionally, there was suitcases piled up near the entryway to the house. The entirety of the house appeared to be in a state of disarray.
Could you tell whether or not it looked like someone was cleaning, reorganizing, moving, or could you tell?
I couldn't tell specifically why everything was out the way it was, but nothing appeared to have been recently cleaned. There was no odor of any sort of cleaning chemicals or anything like that.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness to show him Court's Exhibit 5-1?
Yes.
I'm not going to project this photograph, but 5-1, do you recognize that to be a still screenshot from your body-worn camera video?
I recognize this to be a screenshot from body-worn camera footage. I do not believe this is mine because I am depicted in the photo, so it was probably from one of my partners who was walking behind me.
Okay, fair. So the male that we see in the photograph, kind of standing next to those suitcases, is that you?
Yes, it is.
And you see a circle around 3 suitcases that are at the foot of the stairs?
I do.
And is that the way the inside foyer looked when you walked in that early morning of January the 10th?
That's correct.
Did you look inside those suitcases?
I did not.
After speaking with Mr. Ye, did you and or your partners conduct a welfare check at the house?
I did.
Why?
Officer Lopez and I conducted a check of the house, one, to see if either May left anything behind that could potentially indicate where she had gone so that we could go attempt to find her, given that she was a missing person. Also, we were looking to see if there was any sort of signs of struggle or anything that could have indicated that foul play may have occurred or lead us to believe what may have happened or where May was. Additionally, we were looking for any sort of signs as to what may have happened that could have caused May to go missing.
And did you locate anything that you noted during that welfare check?
No.
As you looked through that, did you go to all of the bedrooms?
I specifically did not.
Did you or one of your partners walk through the house?
Yes.
Describe how thoroughly that was done.
My partner, Officer Lopez, and I checked, to my knowledge, every room within the house. Additionally, Officer Walsh assisted us by checking some of the ground floor areas and all of the vehicles that were both in the garage and parked in front of the house.
And were all of the vehicles associated with the residents of that house accounted for at the house?
Yes, I believe so.
In other words, there was no indication that a car was missing?
No, in fact, multiple of the people we spoke with told us that May's vehicle was still left at the house.
Did, when you conducted this welfare check, did someone also check the backyard?
I don't recall.
What about the garage?
Yes.
Did you note whether or not it appeared that May Millete's personal items, in other words, there were large amounts of makeup or toiletries missing from the bathroom?
No, every makeup cabinet and all of the toiletries, along with the clothing areas of the bedroom, all appear to be full. Nothing looks like anyone grabbed any large quantities of clothing or supplies.
Same with regard to purses, shelves. Did any of the shelves, areas where purses or clothing in the closet were located, anything appear to have, again, big sections missing that would indicate someone had packed up supplies or clothing?
No, ma'am.
Any indication that items were taken for a prolonged period of time?
No, ma'am.
Did you also speak with?
I'm sorry, Counsel, can you rephrase that last question? Items were taken for a prolonged period of time? I don't
For
know.
a prolonged trip or?
No, ma'am. It did not look as though any sort of supplies or items were taken that would allow somebody to be gone for a prolonged period of time.
Did you speak with Officer Walsh in preparation for testifying today?
I did.
Did you review her body-worn camera footage with her when she had some contact with the defendant that evening?
Yes.
And did Officer Walsh indicate that she asked if she could see the defendant's text messages and his last contact with his wife, May Millete?
Yes, she did.
And what did she tell you about that text thread between the defendant and May Millete on his cell phone?
Officer Walsh conveyed to me that Mr. Millete showed her his cell phone specifically to show that May had not reached out to him or contacted him, but the entire history of their conversation only went back a day or two.
Prior to that, so the text message thread between the defendant and his wife only started a day or two prior to so either Friday or Saturday?
Yes, it only went back 1 or 2 days from the time that Officer Walsh spoke with him.
And looking at 5-2, which is in the binder, do you recognize that to be a still photo from Officer Walsh's body-worn camera?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And there's a red circle around a cell phone. Do you recognize that to be a cell phone being held by the defendant?
Yes, it is.
And did you watch that body-worn camera footage again with Officer Walsh?
Yes.
And was this the moment when the defendant was showing Officer Walsh where the text message communication between he and his wife?
That's correct.
And where you see the green messages, that would be essentially the beginning of the text message thread?
Yes, ma'am.
Which exhibit are we on?
5-2.
And so, just so I've got my notes accurately, by the time that you arrived to conduct your investigation, it is shortly after midnight on January 10th?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to be fair, does Officer Walsh, when you spoke with her, did she remember exactly when that text message thread began?
No, ma'am.
After, how long did you spend at the house?
Approximately an hour to 2. I don't remember exactly how long it was.
And what was Richard Troulier also at the house?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you understand him to be Mari Chris's husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there anyone else at the house?
Yes, ma'am. There was Mari Chris and Richard Julier, Mr. Millete, and the children of May and Mr. Millete.
Where were the children?
I was led to believe they were in their bedrooms, but I never specifically spoke with them.
Do you know whether or not they were sleeping?
I was led to believe that they were sleeping, but again, I didn't get a chance to actually speak with them.
What was Mari Chris Drulier's demeanor like during your contact with her at the house?
She appeared to be nervous. Specifically, she appeared to be concerned whenever she was communicating about May or whenever any sort of questions about Mr. Millete came up.
Did you have an opportunity, if you did, to observe the defendant's demeanor?
Not enough that I could speak to it.
After leaving the house, did you conduct any follow-up phone calls?
Yes, I did.
Did you speak specifically with someone by the name of Allison Volkening?
I did.
And who was that?
Miss Volkening was a friend of May.
And did Miss Volkening have any information about May's whereabouts?
She did not.
Did she express any concern about May's whereabouts?
Yes, she did.
Explain that a little bit.
Can we get the spelling?
Volkening. I apologize, wasn't on the list.
You can answer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Volkening expressed concern for May's safety, specifically because she knew May and Mr. Millete had a number of marital difficulties over the years. Specifically, she told me that Mr. Millete and May had been in a number of altercations, that she was not sure if they ever got physically violent. She specifically recounted one incident that May was so in fear for her safety that she locked herself in a bathroom, but Mr. Millete punched through the drywall that was next to the bathroom door to unlock it from the inside so that he could approach
All right.
May.
Counsel, I think there should be a proper foundation for
I-
this statement.
I think it's based on hearsay, so I would, I'll actually agree to strike that testimony with regard to the particular incident with the bathroom door.
Yes, that is
Hi.
stricken because it is inadmissible hearsay.
And
Uh,
we're gonna-
I'll move on.
You know what, let's take a break.
Okay.
Take a 15-minute break. We're gonna take a 15-minute recess, and we'll resume at 3:15. continue with your direct examination.
Thank you. Officer Culver, before we broke this afternoon, you had indicated that you spoke with Allison Volkening and she had no information about May's whereabouts, correct?
That's correct.
And she was concerned about the fact that she had not heard from May Millete.
That's correct.
And did you also speak with one of May's other close friends, a woman by the name of Courtney Cobb?
Yes.
And did Courtney, the phone number that you reached Courtney at, was that a local phone number?
No.
Where was Courtney located?
Courtney was located in Italy, and her phone number was associated with Italy.
Did she indicate to you whether or not she had been in regular communication with May up until January 7th, 2021?
Yes.
And did Courtney have any information about May's whereabouts?
She did not.
Was she also concerned about the fact that she had not heard from May and her communication with May had abruptly stopped?
Yes, she was.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
How did you find out about these individuals to interview?
So, Miss Cobb, the person we just spoke about, her information was provided to me by Miss Julia and her husband. Miss Volkening actually called in to Chula Vista Police Dispatch requesting to speak with an officer related to this case.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
You made corrections to the report that you had prepared on that evening of, it would be January the 10th already, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to make sure
Counsel,
about the
is
corrections.
facing you.
I'm sorry, Yana.
Okay, there.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Just wanted to make sure about the correction. What I understood from your report was Mary Chris said she last talked to May on Friday, January the 8th, 2001, when May canceled their proposal trip to Big Bear Mountain. That's incorrect?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is that entire statement incorrect?
The incorrect portion was that May never canceled the Big Bear trip. Specifically, Miss Drulier mentioned that the 8th was the last time she communicated with May, and that May had in fact never canceled the trip. Because she had not communicated with Miss Drulier at all.
So did you hear when you reviewed your tape, did she say she last talked to May on what date?
I believe it, when I was reviewing my body-worn camera footage, I believe that Miss Drulier said the last time she communicated with May was on the 8th of January of 2021.
Okay. So that's still correct, that
Yes, ma'am.
January 8, 2020. It's only the portion where she canceled the trip to Big Bear Mountain.
Correct.
Okay. And this portion, I just want to make sure that it's still correct, that you have not made any misstatements while you were reviewing your body cam. Mary Chris said she believed May might have left the house to go for a prolonged hike because she was known to disappear for nearly a whole day when hiking, so she could have alone time.
Objection.
Is that still
improper
true?
Impeachment and proper testimony.
Hold on a second. No, I'll allow it because you've introduced some statements, but I want full flavor of what, Mary Crease said. It might, be a statement that is inconsistent with some of the other statements you've introduced. Alright, so you can ask the question again.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Rollet made statements to you in such a manner that, or in essence, states she believed May might have left the house to go for a prolonged hike because she was known to disappear for nearly a whole day when hiking so she could have alone time.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Then there is this statement that I also wanted to have a clarification whether in fact it is accurate or you may have heard differently when you reviewed your body cam.
Yes, ma'am.
And it goes this way. Mary Chris said May had an affair approximately 6 months ago, which was the origin of all her troubles with Larry. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, in essence.
Okay. Now, you had an opportunity to physically see this house on January the 10th, this Mr. and Mrs. Millete's house on January the 10th, 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
How satisfied are you from that night when you were there for what, couple of hours?
Approximately.
That you did not see any signs of violence or fights?
As I mentioned before, I did not get a chance to see every single room of the house because my partner, Officer Lopez, and I divided that responsibility. But from the portions of the house that I did specifically observe, I was satisfied that there did not appear to be any sign of struggle or violence.
When you were having this talk with your co-officers that night, did you have that kind of dealings with the other officers, like Officer Lopez, I believe, and three of you?
None of us, when we discussed our respective parts in this investigation, none of us located anything that led us to believe that any sort of struggle had occurred within the house.
Okay, and from your point of view and your understanding from your communication with the other officers present, you're satisfied with what you had done as far as searching and looking at everything that night?
Yes, ma'am. I'm satisfied that between the three of us, we were able to check every part of the house.
Okay, and when you left the house, after you left the house, was there anything in your mind that you felt you would like to come back and look at?
Objection, vague, relevance.
Sustain, vague.
Okay. There were allegations or strike that. When you were there at the house, did you smell any chemical or cleaning material that would indicate that someone was cleaning the house?
No, ma'am.
Did you speak to the children while you were at the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Millete?
No, ma'am.
And in fact, Mr. Millete was very welcoming. What can you explain why you felt like he was very welcoming?
Yes, as soon as my partners and I arrived at the house, very nearly the first words out of his mouth were inviting us in. In many of my calls for service through my training and experience in law enforcement, we often have to request permission to come into somebody's home, whereas Mr. Millete invited us in right away.
There was no hesitation on his part.
No.
Did you see any firearms inside the house during that search performed on January the 10th, 2021?
No, ma'am, I did not.
During your conversation with Miss Volkening, were you able to ask her if she knew whether or not Miss Millete was on a hike with her recently?
I don't recall.
Did you have an idea as to how many days did Miss Volkening claim she did not hear from Miss Millete?
May I refer to my report to refresh my recollection?
Yes.
Do you remember who was assigned to check the attic?
I don't.
Okay.
Objection
Counsel-
assumes facts not in evidence.
No, he said that they searched, between he and his partner and the other person, they searched everywhere.
Yes, they did.
He said that. But you actually asked if he could refresh his recollection regarding when Ms. Balkening said she'd last seen her,
Yes.
had contact with her.
Right.
He refreshed his recollection, and then you never asked the question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Yana. Sorry. Did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us then?
Yes, Miss Volkening indicated to me that it had been several days since the last time May sent anything in their group chat that they communicated in daily.
So would that be from January the 4th until?
I don't know the specific date. She just indicated that it had been several days.
Okay. Did she indicate to you that she had communicated with her other friends regarding Miss Millete's either if they got hold of her or not?
Yes. Miss Volkening had a separate friend who had offered to give May a place to stay should she ever need it. Miss Volkening spoke with that friend to see if May had come by their residence, and this friend told Miss Volkening that May was not at that residence and she had not heard from May.
did any of the, well, strike that. When you spoke to Miss Volkening, did you have an opportunity to ask her if there was any issue that or reason for Miss Millete to leave the house?
I did not.
Were you able to ask her during the last time she spoke with Miss Millete, whether there was any indication that Miss Millete was planning on leaving Mr. Millete?
Objection
it's-
vague.
Yes, vague as to divorcing or moving away, so rephrase.
My understanding is that Miss Millete was in communication with her friends around January 7th, 2021. And were you aware of that?
I was.
Okay. And during that communication, there was some indication that Miss Millete wanted to leave immediately where Mr. Millete and the children are not.
Objection, lack of foundation.
Sustained
Okay.
and vague.
Were you able to view the reports of the communications between Miss Millete and her friends?
I was not.
Okay. In reference to I understand that Ms. Volkening referred to an argument that resulted between Ms. Millete and Mr. Millete, wherein,
Counsel, I have stricken the
Okay.
hearsay statement.
all right,
That is, it's double hearsay, and there's no grounds for its admissibility, so don't go there.
all right. Well, let me just ask him if he saw any. I just wanted to see, Your Honor, if in fact he had personal knowledge by viewing it. When you entered, did you enter Miss Millete's bedroom?
I did.
Did you observe any indication of any repairs in her bedroom?
Not that I'm aware of.
That would include the door entering the bedroom.
I didn't make any note of any damage to any door.
Okay. Did you enter the bathroom inside the master bedroom?
I did.
Did you see any damage through the door or on the door?
Asked and answered.
Okay.
Say you didn't see any damage.
Now, Miss Volkening told you that May never told her that Larry had been violent with her, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What time did you exit Mr. Millete's residence on January the 10th, 2021?
I don't recall.
you actually do not know the inventory of how many purses Miss Millete owned, correct?
That's correct.
You also don't know the inventory of Miss Millete's wardrobe.
That's correct.
Similarly as to her makeup.
That's correct.
You did not have any opportunity to speak with Mr. Larry Millete that evening of January 10th, 2021.
I did not complete a full interview of Mr. Millete as my partner, Officer Walsh, completed the interview of him. I did communicate with him in passing, but Officer Walsh was the one who took his complete statement.
Were you part of the
Counsel, can you
officers
speak up
that
and make
examined
sure-
the backyard?
Sure that I can hear you. And repeat the question, please.
Were you part of the officers that examined the backyard?
I don't specifically remember going into the backyard.
How about the garage?
Yes.
Were you able to examine the cabinets that are located inside the garage?
I don't recall.
When you were in the garage, can you describe the general appearance of the garage? Was it stacked with many items, or were there ice box and all items in there? Is it crowded, or how would you describe the appearance of the garage that night?
I don't remember any specifics as to what was or was not in the garage, but I remembered that thinking that it would appear to be a normal garage. There was nothing specifically noteworthy.
Yeah. You also testified, you spoke to Courtney Cobb.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did you talk to her?
I would approximate a couple of minutes, but I don't remember exactly how long the conversation was.
Isn't it true that Ms. Cobb said that on the night of January the 8th, 2021, Maya told the group she and Larry had gotten into a big argument and she was planning to file for a divorce?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
That date is correct, January 8th, 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can you tell me who was in this group? If you recall. So it's Ms. Cobb, Ms. Millete, and who else?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't know the identities of everyone who was in the group. Ms. Cobb just referenced the fact that they had a text group where they communicated, but other than Ms. Cobb and Ms. Millete, I don't know any of the other any of the other members of the group.
All right, thank you. But a text.
Yes, Your Honor.
Officer, if you remember, did you or any officers present that evening on January 10, 2021, open the suitcases that were piled up inside the house?
No, ma'am, I don't believe any of us opened any of the suitcases.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Reader.
Yes. Do you know whether or not anyone of the three officers there went into the attic?
I don't know.
Did you?
I did not.
Now, you indicated on cross-examination that it's your memory that Mari Chris told you that she spoke to May on Friday, January 8th?
My memory is that Miss Roulier indicated to me that she had not heard from May since January the 8th.
Okay. And did you review a transcript actually of your body-worn camera footage in connection with your testimony, or to prepare for testifying today?
I did.
And was that the exact wording of it? Was that we didn't hear anything from her at all since Friday?
Yes, I believe that was the exact wording.
Okay, so your understanding of that was that she had actually spoken to her on Friday?
That was my understanding.
Okay. So you don't know whether or not she had actually spoken to her, or if she was referring to the fact that there had been no communication as of that date?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You can answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, so do you know whether or not she actually spoke with her on Friday, or if she meant that as of Friday, she had not had any communication with her sister?
I don't know exactly which of those was the case. It's possible that I misunderstood her statement to be that she had spoken with May on Friday, but it's also possible that she had not heard since that Friday was the first day that she had not heard anything from May.
Okay, because didn't she also, you had said to her, so you didn't talk to her yesterday, and then Mari Chris responded on the no, but not Friday. And then she began talking about May's communication with her friends, her last communication being Thursday. Do you recall that?
Hey, counsel, do you want to refresh his recollection with his transcript? I don't know if it's an accurate reflection of the body-worn camera footage or not, but
Sure. Do you not have a memory of the communication with Mari Chris, or is it fair to say you don't have an exact memory of every word that was spoken between the two of you?
Correct, I don't have a verbatim memory as to our discussion.
Fair. Would it refresh your memory to refer to a transcript?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I sent a copy of the transcript to counsel via email, I believe it was yesterday. So I'm going to, may I approach the witness?
you may.
I'm going to refer you to page 6 of the transcript, referring to line 12 through 14, and ask you to look at that, see if that refreshes your memory.
And before he answers, how about a greater foundation as to how this transcript is generated and where it came from?
I thought you
You
had
can
a
ask
copy.
him.
Well, did you review a copy of the transcript prior to testifying today, along with your body-worn camera?
I did.
Okay, and I guess just, if you could look through the pages of that transcript and tell us whether or not that appears to be a transcript of your communication with Mari Chris Roulier that evening when you responded to the house the early morning of January 10th.
And can you tell me how it's generated? Is it automatically generated from the body-worn camera? Did someone in your office prepare it?
Someone in my office prepared it. But I think the officer reviewed it along with the body-worn camera footage.
You can
Y-
ask.
Yes, this appears to be an accurate transcript of my body-worn camera footage.
I don't have a copy, of the transcript.
It's not marked yet. Can you provide her with a copy now, counsel?
I assumed that she had one. I sent it yesterday. Let me see if I have a copy.
We didn't get it.
For the time, yes, I understand. For the time being, you can share, or how many pages is it? We'll make a copy. We have a Xerox machine. If you send it to Ellen, she can also print it out.
Send her a copy?
Ellen will be happy. Do you have the transcript, Ms. Martinez?
I don't have it, John. I didn't get it. We were in the office late yesterday, but we didn't receive it.
I sent it at 5:14 yesterday, but I also just sent, Madam Clerk a copy.
I don't know how long it's gonna take to arrive.
Through the ether.
How many pages is it?
22?
This is the copy that I'm showing him.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, I sent it to you yesterday afternoon.
Can we just
At 5:15.
I don't have it. I checked.
Oh, no, you're asking in advance. Let's just Xerox it. Can we have that, and we'll just make a copy for her?
Sure.
If you wanna
I
ask
have
something else,
I
while
can ask other
we're
questions.
waiting.
You had indicated that you also, you had spoken to Allison Volkening, and I believe on cross-examination, counsel asked you whether or not, Volkening said May never told her that Larry had been violent with her. I believe your answer was yes, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Wasn't the rest of her statement in that regard, but May had also expressed that she was not willing to get Larry in trouble or leave him for fear of damaging his security clearance through the Navy.
That's also correct.
And Ms. Volkening also said part of her concern was that the defendant had a tendency to be extremely controlling.
Yes, that's correct.
With regard to Ms. Cobbs and her statement, I think Your Honor had asked you whether or not that the messages that she was referring to were text messages. Were they text messages or a Facebook chat group?
They were a Facebook chat group.
And you never saw those messages?
I did not.
So you don't know whether or not, in fact, you weren't able to ever confirm that the date on those texts, on those messages, was actually the 8th or not?
That's correct.
And do you know whether or not when Ms. Cobbs was telling you this, she had those messages in front of her?
I don't know.
So would it be fair to say that the messages themselves would be the indicator of what that actual date was?
Yes, and whatever timestamp was on the messages would likely be the most accurate.
When you were speaking to Ms. Drouillet, if you recall, did she make reference to May's friends being people that she communicated with regularly?
Yes.
What do you recall in terms of Ms. Drouillet's comments to you in that regard?
Miss Drouillet mentioned that May had near daily communication with her friends, and that her friends, specifically Miss Cobb, was the one who initially reached out to Miss Drouillet with concern because May had not been active in their group chat.
do you recall what day she said, they, was the last communication on the group chat?
I don't recall.
Okay, so now I'm going to refer you to, a transcript. Did you want me to have it marked, Your Honor? It's refreshing memory, so I didn't know if you wanted it marked.
You don't have to, but it should.
Oh, all right. So, but may I approach?
You may.
Showing you then, the transcript, page 6, looking at lines 12 through 14. Does that refresh your memory at all about whether or not Ms. Drouillet said that she had spoken to May on Friday?
It does.
And did she say whether or not she'd spoken to her on Friday?
It appears as though Miss Troulier indicated that she had not spoken with May on Friday.
And did she indicate when May's friends had last spoken to her?
Thursday.
And I know on cross-examination as well, there was a question about Ms. Drouillet indicating that her sister would sometimes go out for longer periods of time. Did Ms. Drouillet indicate whether or not there was a concern about how long her sister had been missing at this point?
I don't remember any specific statements.
Looking at the top of page 6, line 1, would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. And did Ms. Drouillet indicate at all that she had concerns about the length of time?
Yes.
What was her concern?
Miss Troulier indicated that May should have been back by then.
All right, thank you. No other questions.
Recross.
The trip to Big Bear, as to the time that you were discussing that with Ms. Drolet, what was your understanding as to the date that they were supposed to be in Big Bear?
My understanding was that they were supposed to be in Big Bear on the Friday, which I believe was the 8th.
And when were they supposed to be back?
I don't know.
Okay. Did Ms. Drolet state that Ms. Millete was still was working that day on January the when was the last day that you understood Miss May Millete was at work?
That's outside the scope of redirect.
Oh, okay, yan. Well, you're a witness. I have no idea. Yan.
Excused or subject to?
He may be excused.
All right, then thank you very
Yes,
much,
Your
sir.
Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Complete your testimony. Next, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. People called Genesis Alonzo.
Raise your right hand and face it.
Do you solemnly state on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Ma'am, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
My name's Genesis Nicolas Tabalanza, Nicolas dash Tabalanza.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Mayor's.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Tabalanza, what do you do for a living?
I'm a contract specialist
Where do you work?
for the Department of Defense, U.S. Navy.
How long have you had that job?
7 years, about 7 years. Yeah.
Okay. And where do you work currently? What exact, what's the, I don't know, department or division within the Navy that you work?
I work for the defense. I work at the Naval Information Warfare Center in San Diego.
Naval Information Warfare Center?
Yes.
And I know there's all kinds of little nicknames within the Department of Defense. Is that something that sometimes you refer to as NIWIC?
Yes, Nightwing.
And prior to working at NIWIC, where did you work?
I work at SWARMAC, Southwest Regional Maintenance Center, also in San Diego.
So that would be, when you say SWARMAC, is that, I'm gonna write it down so I don't, so it's Southwest
Regional Maintenance Center,
SWRMC.
SWRMC.
So when you say SWARMAC, those are the letters that you're saying?
Yes,
And for NIWIC, you're saying NIWC?
yes.
Did you, do you know someone by the name of May Millete?
Yes.
And how did you come to meet May?
She's my friend. She's my mom's coworker, and my mom introduced me to her.
How long ago?
Many years ago, maybe in 2004. Yeah.
Were you living in San Diego at that time?
No, I live in Los Angeles.
Through May, did you come to meet your husband?
Yes.
And who is that?
JR Tabalanza.
When did you and JR get married?
We got married in 2009, October 2009.
Did you at some point move from Los Angeles to San Diego?
Yes.
When was that?
When I got the job at SWARMAC, that was October 2016. No, January 2016. Yes.
When you moved to begin working at SWARMAC, did you work with your sister-in-law, May?
We're in the same command, but we're on different teams. So I don't directly work with her, or we directly work in her team. We're just on different team, just same command.
Because you worked in the same, so you said it's the same command,
Yes.
but a different team?
Yes.
Did you know a lot of the same people?
Yes. Yes.
So in addition to being a sister-in-law, she was also your friend.
Yes.
When you moved to San Diego in 2016, were you married at that time?
Yes.
I think you said you got married in October 2009.
Yes.
Where did you and your husband live when you moved to San Diego?
We lived in Mace in Larry's house.
Which house?
In Paseo Los Gatos in Chula Vista.
Is that the house that they were living in January of 2021?
Yes.
Describe a little bit the siblings in the Tabalanza family. Did they, being a married to JR, did JR and his siblings spend a lot of time together?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about some of the activities they would do together.
Always doing something. Birthdays, camping, snowboarding, going to the lake, boating. Sometimes we even go play table tennis. Just name anything. They will do things together. So
And with the siblings, did that include then their spouses and children as well?
yes,
And you have children of your own?
I do.
Did your children play with May and her husband's children?
Yes.
You say you met May in 2004, 2005, is that about right?
Yes.
So you knew her for many years.
Yes.
How would you describe your relationship?
I guess we're somewhat close. Yeah, we're really good friends, and then she became a big sister. So name it mentor, sometimes just big sister. Really good friend.
What's the age difference between the two of you?
I think just 1 year.
Is she older than you?
Yes.
So at work, was she somewhat of a mentor to you?
Yes, but she tries to just try to just keep it very professional because she's very professional.
Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
She doesn't want us to work in the same team. So because she said that anything that you work for, it's on you. Don't want it to mix together with me, and we really keep it professional where we don't really tell people that we're related.
Outside of work, however, would you consider yourself good friends?
Yes.
What was your sister-in-law, what was her role kind of within the family, among the siblings, would you say?
She's the organizer of, she's the fun committee. She's always comes up with things to do. And, she's good at, hey guys, let's go here. And then she already have it all figured out, like the plane ticket and stuff. We once went in Hawaii and she all figured out what plane tickets to do, to buy or organize a house where we can stay. So
well, let me ask this, would you say that you and May would talk about personal things as well?
yes, mostly with kids. She would tell me some things, but she wouldn't give full details. So it depends.
Okay. Would you describe her as being a private person?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
I just think that if it will make you feel sad, she won't say it. She's just always happy and have a positive outlook in life, like everything's gonna be okay, kind of like that.
How did you communicate with May?
Well, at home, we just talk at home, and then usually we would text each other, and then she would also, at work, she would MS Teams me sometimes.
MS Teams?
Yes. But not all the time.
You got work done as well.
As I reminded everyone, yes, you are under oath, and there's a television camera.
You would communicate to some degree at work through MS Teams, but also text message?
Yes.
Like cell phone to cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk on the phone? Phone calls?
Sometimes, yeah. She would normally just call and say, hey, you want to go for a walk? That's about it, not long phone calls, no.
So were there things that you and May would do, just the two of you?
Yes.
Like what?
Well, she always makes me do stuff. Like we'll go hiking, which is good for me. I need to exercise. And then, she would like to go, every time she goes to work, she would go to Starbucks. So I'll walk with her there. We'll walk to the Bainbridge Park in the afternoon because we're always sitting at our desk all day. And I always do something with the kids, with her and JR. So, and Ate Chris and everybody. So,
Auntie Chris, is that what you said?
Merry Chris.
And I think you referred to a park. What was that park?
Bainbridge Park at work. At
Bain-
Swarmark, yeah.
Bainbridge?
Yes.
Is that at Swarmack? Can you kind of describe? Is that a big area where Swarmack is located?
Yeah, you can run around it. It's like a runner thing.
To get to Swarmack, do you have to go through some kind of security checkpoint?
Yes, definitely. You have to show your ID. Well, you actually have to have a clearance before you can get in the base.
But the base itself, is it a big area, in other words, lots of parking lots, lots of buildings?
Yeah. Yes.
And they actually have a park within the area
Yes.
where the base is?
Yes. So I think the military people can do their PT, their physical training. So yeah, they can run.
Where is Swarmack located?
32nd Street in San Diego.
Where is Nywick located?
In Point Loma.
Over the years, did you also interact with May's husband, Larry?
Yes.
Do you see him here in court today?
Yes.
Do you point to him and tell us what he's wearing?
He's wearing a red tie and black coat.
Could the record reflect the witness and identify the defendant?
Record will so reflect.
Prior to 2020, did you communicate very often with the defendant, Mr. Millete?
No. I mean, during family events.
What about in 2020? Did that change?
Yes.
How did it change?
When we were notified about their problems.
When did you, at some point in 2020, learn that there were some marital problems between the defendant and May?
Yes.
How did you learn that first?
May actually called me to her office one day. It was like we were working late and she said, "Can you come over to my office? I need to talk to you." So that's where she told me that she needs a place to live, if she can live with us. And was really shocked to hear that. Yeah.
So you had said that when you first moved to San Diego, you actually lived with Larry and May for a period of time.
Mhm.
When did you move out of their house?
I think we only lived there for 3 to 4 months in 2016.
And then where did you move to?
In
You don't
San
have- You don't have to give the address, just the
No,
area.
yeah, not the address, just the
Same.
area.
in Paradise Hills.
So not too far away from Chula Vista.
No, I think it's about 15-minute drive.
What was surprising to you about that conversation?
Well, she mentioned the word separate, and I didn't. Looking at the two of them, it wasn't obvious that they're having marital problems. So I was just really shocked to know that she's at the point where she wanted to move out of the house.
Did she at some point move out of the house
Yes,
and in with you and JR?
yes.
When was that?
Mother's Day, I think 2020, May 2020.
How long did she stay with you and JR?
Not long, maybe about from May to June of the 2020.
Do you recall what day it was that she moved back into her house on Paseo Los Gatos?
I would say end of June. The weekend of that end of June.
Between January and June 2020, did your communication with the defendant increase?
Yes,
How would you and the defendant communicate?
via text message.
What was the subject matter of the communication?
Just about May.
What was the frequency of the communication?
Just I think constant text about where May is at, or is she okay, or something like that.
In February, did the defendant text you or communicate with you about a meeting with May's boss at Sparmac?
He called me. He didn't text me about it.
What did he tell you about that?
He said that someone reported about an investigation and that he needed to be there.
Did he go into any more detail about that?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said that someone reported about May and Jamie, and that's about it.
What about May and Jamie?
That there was an affair.
At that point, did you know anything about any kind of affair?
No.
And let me just ask, is it somewhat uncomfortable for you to have to talk about these things?
Yes.
Did the defendant express to you that he had concerns that May had been having an affair?
Yes.
And what did he tell you about this meeting?
It wasn't a long phone call. He was just saying that there was an investigation. Someone reported it.
Did the defendant either over phone calls or via text message express to you concerns about May having an affair?
Yes.
How often?
I don't remember, but he was suspecting there's an affair.
And did he ask you questions about whether or not she was having an affair?
No.
Did the defendant express concerns that May might leave the marriage?
Yes. He's afraid that she might eventually leave him.
And how often would he text or would you say the majority of communication was via text or phone call?
Via text.
And how often would he text you expressing concern that May might want to leave the marriage?
Whenever they have a fight.
When May was living with you and JR in May and June, did the defendant text you about May's whereabouts?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
For example, because May would stop by at their house first, and then when she's about to leave, Larry would ask, "Oh, she's on her way there. Can you just let me know if she's home?" Yeah, like that. So it would be like that almost, I don't know, maybe every day.
How many times a day would he text you asking you those kinds of questions?
Maybe in the morning. Oh no, in the afternoon. I don't know.
Well, just 1 or 2 text messages?
More than that.
More than 10? In a day?
I don't remember. Maybe.
Do you remember ever being bothered by how many messages he was sending you?
Yes.
Why was that? Why was it bothersome?
Well, sometimes it bothers me because she's a grown lady and she has a key to the house. You know, she can come in and out. But, you know, sometimes, yeah. But sometimes I guess it's okay because he's worried about his wife. So I go back and forth.
What do you mean you go back and forth?
Like sometimes I'm bothered, sometimes I'm not bothered.
Did it ever seem unusual to you that he was texting you so much, asking about where May was?
Can you repeat the question?
Did it ever?
Yes.
Why did you think it was unusual?
It's just they're both adults. I just don't feel like sometimes I don't have to like watch over her. So
Did you feel, based on the questions, that the defendant was asking you to watch over her?
well, he didn't say that, but it just feels like I have to track her or something.
Did you, during this time that May was living with you, have time to spend with May and talk to her about how she was feeling?
Not a lot, but she mentioned it.
Did you sometimes go hiking with May?
Yes,
Did you sometimes go walking with May?
yes,
And during that time, did she ever talk to you about her relationship with the defendant?
yes.
And what, did she have complaints about the marriage?
Yeah, she has complaints.
What were some of her concerns about the marriage?
Well, on the day that she told me that she needed to separate, she said that she needed space and that she's exhausted because during I guess she went out of town. She went on a PSP audit and then she said that she got exhausted, that Larry keeps calling her and then she couldn't get sleep. So she just needed space.
What type of audit did you say that was?
PSP.
PSP?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Sorry. It's about contracting. They audit our contract documents.
And was this during that conversation that you mentioned earlier where May asked if you were working late and could you speak after work?
Yes.
And were you aware that she had gone on a work trip?
Yes, I'm aware.
Have you had to go on a work trip like that before?
No, thankfully.
Okay. What was she expressing? Why was she exhausted?
Well, she's the assistant deputy, so she has a lot of people under her. And the audits, they have to wake up 5 in the morning, prepare for their briefing audit, and then she just doesn't have time to answer phone calls because she's around many other, I guess, contracting professionals doing the audit. And she said that Larry keeps calling and she can't answer and it makes her tired. And she said that I think I needed space. So
At that time, so this would have been January 2020, what was May's job? Were you familiar with what her job title was?
yes, she's an assistant deputy chief contracting officer.
And I think you, in the Department of Defense, if I'm not mistaken, there's a certain pay scale or designation of where you are kind of within your career. what is that ranking, or how do you designate where you are in your career?
Oh,
And a salary designation?
is it for me?
Well, just generally,
Like-
and then I'll ask you about May.
Oh, it's like a GS 13, 14. Is that what you're asking? May is a GS 14, so that's pretty high.
Um, So this kind of interaction, did she say whether or not the defendant was calling her quite often on this trip?
Yes.
Did she say why he would call her?
I don't know. Just check on her. I know she didn't say it. She just said that he keeps calling and she can't get to it right away because she's busy. So
She didn't say why he kept calling her?
I guess to talk to her or check on her or yeah.
What do you mean check on her?
She was just saying that he keeps calling and she can't get to the phone because she's busy.
Did she say whether or not he was expressing concern that she might be with someone else?
No. I guess it wasn't directly said to me, but I guess she was just exhausted. The fact that Larry keeps calling.
Do you know when Mother's Day was in 2020? Remember what day that was?
I know, May 1? No. I don't remember.
Okay, that's it.
But yeah, May 15? Maybe? Around May 15?
But you remember it was Mother's Day?
Yes, yes.
While, did May bring her kids with her to your house
No.
when she moved out?
No.
Yes, I just wanted to get the time period, so.
When May
she
moved
lived-
when May moved into your house with JR during May and June of 2020, did she bring the kids with her?
No.
Did she sometimes have the kids at the house?
Yes.
Did she express a desire to have the kids at the house?
Yes.
Was there any reason that you know of why she didn't have the kids at the house more?
No.
And during that time frame, during May, June, did the defendant send you text messages?
Yes. All the time.
What would he ask you?
He would ask me, for example, there's one time where, oh, hey Jen, she's leaving the house now. Can you let me know when she's home, and can you check if she's wearing her ring? So things like that.
Meaning her wedding ring?
Yes, her wedding ring.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness to show her People's Exhibit, or Court's Exhibit 13?
Yes, and then after that, we're going to recess for the day.
Showing you Court's Exhibit 13-1. Do you recognize the text in this exhibit to be text messages between you and the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And did the text in the blue squares appear to be the text messages being sent by the defendant, Larry Millete?
Yes.
And then the messages in pink, do those appear to be the messages sent by you?
Yes.
And do the dates appear to be accurate, that these messages were sent May 8th of 2020?
Yes.
I'm gonna project this up on the screen. This would be 13 dash 1, and is 13-1 up on the screen the same exhibit that you see in the binder in front of you? Is that, I'm sorry, 13-1 that's in the binder, is that the same exhibit that's up on the screen?
Yes.
So the messages start with please help me with Maya. And that's something that the defendant texted to you.
Yes.
And then you said, what's going on? Is she at work? And then the remaining messages are from the defendant? Yes?
Yes.
So he says, yes, and then let me just make sure we get that entire message. We had a rough morning and she said she's done and wants out. Our marriage is on its last leg. I'm scared she's going to leave this time. Was that a message that was common or kind of a common theme with his messages to you?
Yes.
And then he said when tones get tough, she threatens to leave, and then it looks like corrected to times. Those are messages that he sent to you in May of 2020.
Yes.
And is this just kind of a sampling of some of the messages he would send to you during that time period?
Yes.
Showing you 13-2